Welcome back, subscribers, and welcome new viewers to The Creative Woman. And I want to thank each and every one of you who have subscribed, who like and share my videos, because that helps my whole channel to circulate to more and more individuals who are needing this information just like you. And for those of you interested, my new book, it's out, it's in print. And if you are interested in purchasing one of my books, send me an email at thecreativewoman369@gmail.com. And also, those of you who are wanting to book a private reading with me, I'm now open and ready for that. And if you would like a list of what I am, what's available, and just send me an email as well at thecreativewoman369@gmail.com. And my email is always in the description box below this video and all of my videos. Okay, so I am going to be reading from my Pluto book, and the author is Jeffrey Wolf Green, and this is for Allison. So thank you, Allison, specifically because you aren't just assisting your own self, but everyone else who also has natal Pluto in Virgo and or the 6th house. All right, so let's get started. And always, those of you who'd like a written copy for me to email that to you, just again send me an email and let me know. Okay, Pluto in the 6th house or Virgo. Individuals who have Pluto in the 6th house or in Virgo have been learning the evolutionary lessons of service to society, to culture, or on a smaller scale, to an individual. In addition, these individuals have been learning necessary lessons in personal humility and self-doubt, discrimination, purification, and self-improvement. These specific lessons have and will be developed through intense self-analysis. In the broadest possible sense, the 6th house or Virgo is an archetype symbolizing how individuals within a collective body, like culture or society, learn to fulfill a specific function within the culture or society. Each person in any group of people, from the most primitive to the most sophisticated, has a work-related function to assume in order to help sustain the entire group. On this basis, the individual's personal desires, needs, and times are sacrificed in order to fulfill the desires, needs, and requirements of the tribe, culture, culture or society. This archetype teaches all of us the emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and physical dynamic of service to the whole. In certain cultural, tribal, or societal contexts, the individual's work assignment or role is fixed according to hereditary status. In other cultures, people are free to determine their own work. In either case, the lesson of personal sacrifice and service is learned. Those with Pluto in the 5th house or in Leo learned how to identify the creative principle and purpose from within themselves. In order to do so, they necessarily had to unite emotionally with the creative principle in order to actualize their own purpose. This led to the creation of the pyramid reality, effect in which the individual was on the very top of the pyramid, expecting all other factors in his or her life to revolve around and serve their needs. In the sixth house, or Virgo, the pyramid now becomes inverted. The individual is at the bottom in order to serve the needs of the whole through the work or service function that he or she has been assigned or has chosen. In either situation, the individual with the sixth house Pluto has necessarily had to learn practical methods, techniques, or skills in order to establish or apply their work-related function within the culture, tribe, or society. The sixth house, or Virgo, is what I call a transitional archetype, in which the individual is leaving behind the Leonian fifth house orientation and moving toward the seventh house, or Libran orientation. The archetype or lesson of individual equality or relativity. Aries through Leo, the first house through the fifth house, is necessarily subjective or egocentrically oriented. Libra through Pisces, 7th house through the 12th house, is necessarily objective or progressively egocentrically oriented. The individual relating their identity to larger and larger wholes, to the universe. In effect, then, the inverted pyramid effect has been teaching these individuals to pierce the balloon of their own self-inflated specialness or importance. The piercing of this balloon has induced necessary evolutionary lessons of humility and self-purification. They have been learning that the universe does not revolve around them, and that there is much more concerning the totality of reality than just the reality that they can, let me say that over. Okay, just a minute. They have been learning that the universe does not revolve around them, and that there is much more concerning the totality of reality than just the reality that can be seen from the center of their own pyramids. In the fifth house, or Leo, the individual was learning to actualize that which they were. In the sixth house, or in Virgo, the individual has been learning to understand that which they are not. Being aware of what they are not, these individuals have not only been learning essential humility, but also a necessary self-purification that purges all traces of self-glorification and delusions of grandeur. Again, one of the ways that this lesson has been learned is through the work dynamic. This has been learned in a variety of ways depending on the specific karmic signature and natural evolutionary condition of each individual who has Pluto in the sixth house or in Virgo. And I'm going to skip ahead because this is a general reading. And so, again, if you'd like a copy, let me know. Just send me an email. In addition to learning this lesson through the work dynamic and service, these individuals have also been learning it through mental self-analysis. Those with Pluto in the sixth house or Virgo have a very powerful mental X-ray or laser-like mind. The intensity of the mental light exposes any dynamic, component, or part of themselves that is not right, and that's in quotes, or perfect, also in quotes. These dynamics, components, or parts can be of a mental, emotional, intellectual, or spiritual nature. The sixth house and Virgo are intrinsically yin or feminine by nature. As such, this produces cycles of natural introspection and self-analysis. These cycles allow for a periodic mental and emotional survey of the individual. This survey must occur so that the individual can cyclically eliminate and adjust any component part within his or herself that is not attuned to his or her ongoing evolutionary and karmic needs. Again, the sixth house and Virgo are transitional archetypes. Thus, that which must be adjusted or eliminated will pertain to internal patterns of egocentric self-identification, the pyramid reality structure, delusions of grandeur, or any intellectual and emotional pattern that is preventing further growth. The intense cycles of self-examination that focus upon these internal patterns will correlate with inner feelings of what must be changed in some way. This inner experience clearly reflects a standard of conduct that is right, that's in quotes, and perfect, which is in quotes. Because of the transitional nature of this archetype, these individuals are evolving toward an egocentric orientation to life, to identify themselves with larger and larger wholes. That which is not right or perfect will be subconsciously linked to the life orientations symbolized by Aries and the first house through Leo and the fifth house. That which is right and perfect will be symbolized by Libra and the seventh house through Pisces and the 12th house. The vehicle through which this transition takes place is Virgo and the sixth house. Thus, the cycles of intense self-examination and analysis occur so that the necessary adjustments can be made. In so doing, the transition can take place. Many of these individuals have memories stored at an unconscious level that pertain to prior indiscretions and mistakes, or anything that was not done right, and that's in parentheses. Again, we can see that a standard of right conduct promotes this inner feeling. In some individuals, this standard of right conduct is highly defined as at a conscious level. In others, the standard will only be sensed as a haunting feeling of what should or ought to be. Whatever the case is, most sixth house Pluto individuals will experience guilt at an unconscious or subliminal level. This guilt is based on prior mistakes or indiscretions as measured against the standard of right conduct of what should have been or what should be. The basis of this guilt will be different in all cases and will be described by the main karmic evolutionary dynamic in each chart. And what he's considered the main evolutionary dynamic is your nodes of the moon, specifically your south node of the moon, which is what you and every one of us on this earth have the privilege of working through. That's each one of our personal work, is working through that south node so that we may experience the blessings of our north node. Okay. In all cases, there will be a desire and need to atone for the guilt in conjunction with the standard of right conduct. To atone is to purify and effect self-improvement. A way to do this is to serve others in some way, the work dynamic, and again, specifically, the nodes of your moon, working through your south node, personal work properly in this life. So also the right and wrong, what you will feel internally, the guilt or the what did he say? How did he use that? What is considered, what you inside are considering right or wrong conducts of behavior have everything to do and are linked to your past south node. So, okay. Because of the need to atone for guilt, these individuals will mercilessly analyze their own shortcomings, flaws, or inadequacies and truly become their own worst enemies. So you're going to do this, so do not feel bad. This has everything to do with what we're reading here and what you're listening to, the placement of your specific Pluto. And again, it's going to be linked for all of you to your nodes of the moon. By compulsively focusing on imperfections, these individuals can become hung up on or blocked from being able to actualize or fulfill their deepest personal capacities or abilities in this life. And again, that's what our nodes of the moon are for all of us, is that program that is a blockage, an automatic program that blocks us from being who we truly are. But working through that, and for all of you who have this Pluto, which I have Pluto in Virgo in the 6th house, so I completely on a experiential personal level understand what you specifically are going through, and it's going to link absolutely to your nodes of the moon, just like it did for me. And that's what he is speaking about as well. Okay, so it's a big deal. Pluto and your nodes, huge deal, huge deal. Okay. But I'm also needing to tell you, being called to tell you, that because it's Pluto and your nodes of the moon, yes, it's a huge deal, absolutely. But that also gives all of you the ability to work through your nodes of the moon as quickly or quicker than others might in this life, because it's Pluto and its hard aspect and whatever else that might be aspected to your nodes, to your Pluto, whatever planets, will then be in even more encouragement to assist you specifically in working through that in this life, so that you can be of help and assistance in this Aquarius age. So that's a very much a positive. That is your blessing in disguise, even though it doesn't feel good right now and it's hard and tough. Keep going, because you're going to get a huge payoff. Okay. Many of these individuals have been carrying the burden of such guilt for many lifetimes. The knowing at some level that they have copped out on themselves in some way. This kind of evolutionary and karmic pattern can become a vicious cycle that perpetually feeds itself. So now you know where these feelings are coming from. Guilt, or that feeling of copped out, whatever it might be. It's your Pluto in the 6th house and or in Virgo. In the worst cases, the individual will be in a state of perpetual crisis because of this evolutionary and karmic condition, the need to atone for the guilt that promotes the compulsive analysis of the individual's inadequacies, flaws, imperfections, and lacks can translate into the inner experience of, what did I do wrong? Like I always felt I was bad, and so that had to do with my South Node, and of course my Pluto, and the combination, and all the other things that the hard aspects of my chart. Some individuals who externalize and project this inner orientation upon the environment will blame others for the wrongs that have been projected on them. So I did plenty of that. And so again, don't you feel bad? But now you know differently. You know where it's coming from. So if you have the ability to correct any of the blames, your past blaming, do so. At the very least, also yourself. Acknowledge that and forgive yourself for doing that. So you don't add any more guilt to yourself because you have enough. It's about letting all of that go. It's about seeing where that's coming from. And this is one of the places. Let's see. They can feel victimized by the environment, others, and the nature of their circumstances. This kind of internal and external orientation is relative and is experienced differently in each sixth house Pluto individual. The difference is based upon the specific karmic evolutionary signature in the birth chart, meaning your placement of the planets and specifically your nodes, what house and sign placements. In the example that was used earlier, the individual could have, okay, I'm going to go forward because I skipped that specific orientation. We're going to keep it general. In effect, the need to atone for whatever the origins and causes of the guilt are can lead many of these individuals into a reality structure that is full of personal crisis. So this is why you're going to be calling, this Pluto placement that's in your chart is going to be calling. So you are, this energy, which is inside you, is going to be calling out for specific circumstances, certain crises that are going to come up in your life so that you can begin to become consciously aware of this Pluto placement and what you are to work through and work beyond. And now you can consciously be aware of why these crises are happening and what it's trying to, or why you're experiencing them, so that you can go beyond. You can get the details of what specifically, and this is what I'm reading to you right now, why and what you're to be learning from them. Okay. Crisis is a necessary experience for these individuals. It's necessary for you. At one level, they may unconsciously hold themselves back from fulfilling their inherent capacities and may only minimally develop or fulfill their abilities. When this reaction occurs, it will reflect the need for self-denial, self-penance, self-sacrifice, or self-doubt. This behavioral reaction creates the necessary crisis because the person will in some way recognize the above patterns and failure to fulfill the totality of his or her capacities. The ensuing emotional mental crisis will cyclically enforce the need for self-analysis in order to expose the inner reasons or dynamics that have created this behavioral reaction. Crisis brings these issues to a head. Positively responded to, the analysis of the issues can promote self-adjustment, self-improvement, and self-knowledge, because the light of personal awareness experienced through the crisis allows for behavioral change. Behavioral change can occur once the inner dynamics and origins of the behavior are brought into the full light of day. Self-adjustment and self-improvement can occur by aligning with a standard of conduct that is right for the person, and by consistently practicing the methods, techniques, and ideas of that standard. I need to check the time. Okay, we're still doing good. All right. Excuse me. In this context, the standard of right conduct could be any system of thought that promoted self-improvement and self-knowledge. Negatively responded to, the analysis brought through crisis will promote a compulsive need for continual self-criticism to the extent that the individual is unable to implement constructive change. He or she simply gets hung up in the unending web of mental analysis, which can create a kind of emotional and mental paralysis. Ancient Taoist philosophy offers a simple yet instructive example to illustrate and counteract this negative effect. The centipede has 1,000 legs and is just fine as long as it keeps putting one leg in front of the other. It gets to where it wants to go. Yet, when the centipede tries to analyze how leg 46, for example, works in the sequence of one of 1,000 legs, it freezes and becomes paralyzed. The antidote is to just keep putting one leg in front of the other. In the same way, 6th house Pluto individuals need to keep walking, talking, and acting. Perfection or atonement will occur in this way. It will not occur by sitting in one spot and trying to become perfect, clean, and guilt-free from that one spot of inaction. The individual cannot improve simply by thinking about it. There must be the initiation of actions that allow for the implementation of the motion so that a processing can take place. Even though the 6th house and Virgo are intrinsically feminine or yin in nature, they are also mutable. Movement or action promote clarity and understanding of that which is occurring through inner absorption or analysis. The intrinsic motion of an action allows for a processing with respect to that which is being analyzed. The result is perspective and clarity of thought. Without the necessary motion implied in an action, that which is being analyzed can become distorted, leading to a loss of perspective. 6th house Pluto individuals can induce another form of crisis. They can create so many external obligations that they have no time for themselves. Again, we see the theme of work and service linked to the inverted pyramid effect. We see this phenomenon linked with unconscious guilt atonement patterns that are in turn linked to the need for egocentric purification and humility. Such behavior is also associated with personal avoidance. All too commonly, these people feel absolute aloneness at an inner level. This acutely felt experience is a reflection of the mental emotional analysis through which the individual is stripping him or herself to the bone. This experience is also a reflection of the fact that the sixth house and Virgo are a transitional archetype. Progressively, the individual cannot relate to nor identify with the Aries through Leo orientation to life. The individual is moving toward the Libra through Pisces orientation to life. This transition makes the individual feel alone because he or she can neither relate to the past, that which is known, nor relate to the future because it is unknown. Thus, the experience of the moment, the perpetual transition, leaves the individual feeling utterly alone at a core level. So again, this is part of the process. And now you can know where this is coming from. By stripping him or herself bare, by analyzing all the component parts that must be adjusted and improved in order to be reorganized into a more perfect whole, the individual can project this analysis upon the external environment. In doing so, the individual experiences the imperfections, the inadequacies, and the flaws of life in general. Such a critical analysis of the inner and outer environment produces the feeling that something is missing, or that life is ultimately meaningless. This intense emotional focus, negatively expressed, translates into a few other common behavioral manifestations. In addition to being generally self-critical, the person may be critical of everyone or everything in their environment. This criticism, based upon some standard of conduct established by the individual, can translate into personal avoidance because the intense feelings of aloneness are just too great. Thus, the individual becomes very busy, filling up his or her life with one obligation after another and never getting around to doing what they ought to do for themselves. The crunch of time in relation to obligations or projects enforces crises, making the individual aware of the inner dynamics that create this behavior. Crisis can promote change if the individual so desires. In this context, it would mean a change of personal routines, which would allow the individual to get in touch with him or herself at a core level. Then the necessary activities can be developed through which personal improvement can occur. In many people, this dynamic of personal avoidance, when linked to the gut sense of an inner void, translates into the workaholic syndrome. Other common self-avoidance habits are always reading, normally trashy or meaningless books, eating, or going out all the time. Those who continually complain and criticize cannot help but attract attacks or criticisms upon themselves. This, of course, will only deepen their sense of isolation. It can also deepen the sense of bitterness and meaninglessness. Such people can simultaneously feel sorry for themselves while vindictively lashing out at the misidentified sources of their problems. They may feel persecuted or that forces are conspiring to attack them. They may in fact be attacked in some way because of factors arising from their own actions in this and other lifetimes. A few of these individuals with Pluto in the sixth house or in Virgo are being forcefully held down by the weight of their own actions in the past, karmically crushed by their own actions in other times. This condition normally occurs through some kind of prior abuse of power. Being forcefully held down enforces humility, as well as the lesson of hearing how to receive power versus desiring power for its own sake. The key to resolving this crisis is to become aware of the reasons or dynamics that are creating this kind of experience. The reasons, lessons, or dynamics concern the evolutionary necessities of the sixth house Pluto. Remember that these individuals will unconsciously set up, so you will unconsciously set up or attract situations in which you must be of service to the whole or others, or necessarily experience personal sacrifice or denial because of the inverted pyramid effect. Also, keep in mind that the experience of all the dynamics that have been discussed so far is relative in terms of the intensity and karmic need. Each case is different, but the evolutionary theme will be the same in all cases. This same pattern linked to the individuated state would produce an individual who felt essentially alone coming into this life. The individual could feel a high degree of alienation from common people and would have a hard time relating to them. The resulting crisis could revolve around not knowing what to value or think. The individual could attempt to solicit opinions, ideas, and values from a variety of people and sources, and could even try a variety of lifestyles and roles in an attempt to discover the meaning that he or she was seeking. Each new attempt to identify with this value or that, this idea or that, would produce a series of personal crises as the forms and limitations of each became non-productive and meaningless. In conjunction with this, the individual could also try on a variety of roles or situations in an attempt to find the one that felt right, one that he or she could believe in. Again, as the roles or situations dissolved into meaninglessness, a personal crisis could ensue. The individual would criticize all that was normal as defined by society and attempt to separate from the mainstream. In turn, the individual could receive criticism from society for being different. So in the herd state, the individual would attempt to live the values and beliefs that their cultural context was founded upon, that which most people valued and believed. The mundane and common forms of work would be vicariously associated with and lived out. The emphasis would be on that which was practical from a societal point of view. Any ideas, beliefs, values, or lifestyles that differed from consensus opinion would be criticized in varying degrees. In turn, the individual would attract criticism from those in the individuated state for being blind to other points of view, alternative values, and different ways of relating to themselves and others. The attraction of external criticism would mirror the fact that this individual was in some way feeling a lack from within with respect to their own values, beliefs, and lifestyle. The internal lack would reflect an inner crisis that made the individual aware at some level of something that was missing in life. Yet, to try other approaches could also lead to a crisis of the unknown and the uncharted. Locked within the prison of their own complacency, the individual could become alienated from the very values and beliefs that he or she has been vicariously living out. Yet, fearing the unknown, the individual is unable to change and can only criticize those who do not conform to that which is normal or practical. Okay, let me see here. 40, okay, it's about to cut out, so I'm going to stop right there. If you would like the rest of, there's about a page more. If you would like the rest in writing, let me know. Send me an email and I will send you the rest of the copy. Okay, so it talks about physical illness, so you can make yourselves physically ill. Again, if this pertains to you, that sounds right, send me an email. I will send you the written copy of this whole thing, besides what I didn't read about the illness. Okay, until next time. Until next time. Until next time, all right. Goodbye. All right.